You know, because to be honest, when we asked our buddy Vlad Rimberg to come out, at the time we've just been doing all these sort of choreography tests, mostly just like a traditional stunt team, more pre-vising for our own training, you know, for any type of work. We decided, you know what, we used to do short films when we first started, and we really hadn't done that. We sort of more fledged into simply like a stunt team.
Right.
So our buddy who's been directing at the time felt more comfortable with him. We hadn't worked with him directly, mostly indirectly, like giving each other ideas or things like that. So we said, you know what, let's work together. We were supposed to fly out to LA at the time. He actually had opportunity for a gig, so we're like, let's postpone it. It didn't go, it fell through on his end. He felt sort of, was like, we should have just went. I was like, you know what, we have some extra money, why don't we just fly him out? So we flew him out for a weekend. And
that was the primary budget of the film.
Right.
Was flying them out.
Flying him out, and then just, you know, we housed him at his place, and then just some extra money just for food, and all the equipment was really on hand. You know, we had the dolly through our other buddy that's supposed to be here, and otherwise, yeah, we just said, you know what, just come up with an idea. We trust you. We just play ball, and that's where he came up with the initial concept of the whole assassins and like their different personalities, and we sort of slightly fleshed it out. But to be honest, there wasn't any script. There wasn't any like, you know, it was very just on the ball.
Everything was improv.
It was supposed to be. I end up fighting myself, very much like Fight Club.
Yeah, like Fight Club. Like it turns out like he's like a Tyler Durden at the very end.
You know, but then he's like, no, that's not a good idea. Let's do this and this instead. So then we're like, all right, well, you know, we'll flesh it out. And literally, it was very on the fly. The three guys in the house, which are three other members of the team, I was like, hey, you know, do you guys mind coming out? And they're like, yeah, sure. You know, we'll work on it. That house is actually one of our other stunt team members. He went out, you know, to New York for a gig. And he's like, yeah, just use the apartment, whatever, you know, go nuts. And
That's the way it gets done.
and
Yeah.
and pretty much
you
that's
filmed it in LA?
no, all in Chicago.
All in Chicago.
Oh, okay.
That's actually the director. He had this idea after creating it, and he's like, you know what would make it different is if you spoke in Spanish, because you're Mexican. You don't. No one. He's like, that's the thing. Everyone confuses you for an Asian or somebody else. No one knows that you're actually, you know, Latino. So he's like, why don't you? But he's like, you know, he's like, why not? It's different. It's not there to be like pretentious. It's just, you know, it's different. No one will get it. And he's like, you know, I also he had a funny thing about, well, if it's international sounding, people will pay attention to it more. You know,
Yeah,
like,
that is true.
That's what he sort of pointed out. So I'm like, you know, sure, why not? I've never acted in Spanish by any means.
No,
Well, the whole concept is, you know, there's a supposed, you know, league of assassins. Essentially, my character is the second tier, so he wants to be the first tier. And as opposed to, I guess the whole concept of everything is, you know, they meet obviously in a battle to the death of sorts, but as opposed to assimilating to him or trying to defeat him, he sort of adapts and becomes him, and in his own warped sense, you know, becomes the character in his own way. And so that's sort of just the initial concept, you know, that we created. So it's very straightforward. There's not a whole lot of character development by any means, but I guess that's the point. It's experimental, where we leave a lot out, sort of leave it to your imagination as to why he's his way, why he's, you know, myself is my way, why we fight a distinct way. Right, and he's the first tier, so that's why when in the movie he starts, the director Vlad wanted to create this very symbolic gesture, which is the whole dancing that he does, you know, just to give it, boom, this is who this character is, and then to give me a sense of, well, this is what I have to become, and that's sort of what the whole movie is about, is becoming and adapting, but that's why it sort of becomes crazy, because it's very obsessive, you know, psychotic neuroses my character has, I guess, in his head that he wants to become.